today we celebrate the feast of St. Luke, and St. Luke wrote the Gospel of Luke, and also the Acts of the Apostles. And just a quick reflection over the things that are unique to the Gospel of Luke. One is pretty much the whole infancy narrative. So while Matthew tells us a little bit about the Annunciation to St. Joseph and the Magi and the star and the like, Luke uniquely has the Annunciation to Zechariah and Elizabeth about the coming of John the Baptist, about Mary's Annunciation with the angel Gabriel, and so we get the fiat, let it be done to me according to thy word. That we have Mary's visitation to Elizabeth, where she then sings the Magnificat, my soul proclaims the greatness of the Lord. And then the shepherds coming to the stable in the manger in Bethlehem, and Jesus, the presentation of the child Jesus in the temple, and then the loss of the child Jesus in the temple. So that's all unique to Luke. Some of the stories that we love so much, unique to Luke, for instance, the prodigal son, or the story of the parable of the publican and the Pharisee, where they go in and the Pharisee's up front and saying, look how good I am, and the publican's in the back saying, be merciful to me, a sinner, and other such stories. And then in the Passion narratives unique to Luke, we hear in the agony in the garden, we hear about how the angel comes and ministers to Jesus, as well as the sweating of blood. And then on the cross, the words of Jesus, Father, forgive them. And then the conversation with the other thief, the good thief, as they say, who said, Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom. And Jesus saying, this day you will be with me in paradise. And then that final word, into your hands, Father, I commend my spirit. And then in the resurrection narrative, the story of the trip to Emmaus, where the two disciples are walking and Jesus appears and they don't recognize him. So these are some of the beautiful, unique things where Luke gives us this perspective where the Synoptic Gospels, Matthew, Mark, and Luke, there's so much that's similar in them, and Matthew and Mark have so much that kind of parallel along the lines, and Luke kind of adds this beautiful flavor that if we didn't have this Gospel, or the Acts of the Apostles, how much we would have lost. And at both the beginning of the Acts of the Apostles and the Gospel of Luke, he talks about, how he's saying, I've undertaken this specific work to be able to write this Gospel, this work about what is going on, what happened with Jesus, and all these things that he specifically went out and studied, where he didn't know Jesus in the flesh. Unlike Matthew and John, who were disciples of Jesus, some of the apostles, and it's even claimed that Mark might have been one who had contact with Jesus, as we think that maybe he was that one that ran away naked in the Garden of Gethsemane, that maybe he had some sort of contact with Jesus, but there's absolutely no indication that Luke had any contact with Jesus while he was on this world. And yet, what's the psalm that we have for the reading today? Your friends make known, O Lord, the glorious splendor of your kingdom. That even though Luke never was friends with Jesus in this life, he came to know Jesus and to become friends with him as Jesus was in heaven. And this is a good news for us, that even though we were not around when Jesus was walking this earth, we can still be friends with him. What a friend we have in Jesus. This is not just nice words or pious thoughts. This is truth. We come to know Jesus here, today. That he speaks to us his word through the scriptures, that he feeds us with his very body and blood, soul and divinity, coming into an intimate communion with us through the Eucharist. And he invites us in prayer to be able to come into that intimate relationship with him, to know him, to be friends with him. And so we ask for that great gift, that through the intercession of St. Luke, we may be friends with our Lord and so make known the glorious splendor of His kingdom.